In this lesson we will build a fireworks setup, and I don't think I have to do anything for you, so basically we will just have an explosion in our scene. So although this is really more appropriate for a particle setups, especially thinking particles, I think it would be really beneficial to you to show you that this is actually possible with MoGraph also. So now you possibly noticed that I really increased the pace for these project lessons, and I'm creating a sphere with 50 segments for a start, but I want to explain you something before that. It is absolutely vital for you to understand everything we discussed in previous volumes, otherwise this will be really difficult. And if you find that you're having troubles with following these setups because MoGraph demands all that previous knowledge to be utilized in its full glory, otherwise the sheer potentials of MoGraph won't be met. Also, I really picked up the pace because I want to show you as many things as I can for your money, and let's without further delay proceed. The only thing that is similar to fireworks in Cine 4D by default is this explosion FX deformer, so I will put it as a child of my object, and always experiment first with the things which are most obvious. In MoGraph, and also that works for Cine 4D in general, is all about transferring your ideas via these available tools that are at your disposal. So first think of the setup and then try to work out in your head how you will recreate this setup with the available tools. So that's the recipe for good technical developing. Now I will play with some settings here under this explosion FX. The first thing that I will change is under this cluster. I'll change this minimum and maximum polys because I really want to use a minimum amount of geometry. That is a golden rule. So let's go with the lowest value, and that is 2. I also will press play and nothing will happen. This will remain static. So if I want something to explode, I'll have to play with this time parameter, as you can see. And what I will do, I will find beginning of the explosion. So let's find that value. That is roughly 3.7%. So I will add a keyframe at frame 0. And let's say that we will do a 90 frames animation, and I'll set this to some arbitrary value. Let's find something, maybe 20. Let's see how that will work. And I'll add a keyframe. I will also enable this grad shading lines. We will be able to see that debris in the viewport. So now we're having explosion. Doesn't really look promising at the moment, but we will fix that. Here under cluster, I'll get rid of this thickness because I will not need it. Let's press play now and see what happens. Now I have really a sort of a uniform spherical explosion with some sort of gravity going on, which is set here. We stop this, it's a little bit distracting, and play with some settings. Now I'm pretty sure that you watched fireworks at some point in your life, so notice that with fireworks, these guys actually disappear, they extinguish with time. So we will check this disappear guy and leave all these settings at default. Here under explosion, we'll add some variation just to get rid of this uniformity. Let's say maybe like this, and the blast speed should be much higher. Let's try maybe 500. See how that works. And maybe not. Let's go back. Let's rather try to set this back to default and have a go with this variation, guys. So let's set also this to 50%. So some sort of variation, and this Looks really solid, so let's stop it and go back. Now, even though this looks really promising, maybe I will have to do something that's a little bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. So let me explain. You would expect some sort of a more violent effect at the start of the explosion, and it should happen more rapidly. We will do that by really calling a timeline, because I don't want to disturb my original layout. So let's maybe put it here. So I'll enter the curve mode for my keyed values, so for my keyframed values, which are exactly these guys. So this is the spline through which that explosion will happen. Maybe I will just scale this a little bit so you will be able to see a little bit better, and I'll press H inside this window, and this will frame the spline into that available space. And although this wasn't meant to be an animation tutorial, I think you will really benefit from this. So let's hit play, and you can see these guys, this behavior is mapped through this spline, and it's sort of like a wavy spline. If I want something to happen a little bit more rapid, more violent, I will just select this guy and pull this tangent upwards, so maybe like this, and you will see the effect to be more violent at the beginning. I hope that makes sense, and that's as far as I will go with this animation part, and maybe I will just pull this just a little bit down so I don't have any overshoot here, because these guys would maybe go back, if that makes sense to you. So I will close this, stop it, go back, and hopefully we'll see the difference. Now it happens a little bit more realistic, so it blasts outside, and that debris slowly slows down. I think that is okay. Now here actually comes the fun part where we will use a MoGraph cloner. So let's select our sphere, and we will make it editable, and drop it under cloner, and we'll zero this out and maybe spread them 1,000 centimeters across. So now really see I have that flexibility because of the cloner, so that is pretty much the reason for using it. Let me stop this, go back, and I'll show you something really interesting. With the cloner selected, I will load up a tracer, and if I hit play now, well, nothing will happen, because this guy, this handle cloners, has to be in another mode. So watch what happens if I hit immediate clones, and you'll also notice another problem, and that is due to priorities. So this guy, this tracer, should be lower than this cloner. So now things will start to happen as expected, and this looks really nice, but we can push this a little bit further. So first I will put some color just to make things a little bit more live and happy. So let's choose something, maybe this one. I think that's nice, and hit play and see what do we get, and that looks really cool. Let me stop this, go back, and I will hide this sphere because it's kind of in the way. I only want to have the trace. Let's now fiddle around with some settings here under object, and the first thing I want to change, I want to limit the explosion, so I want to limit the traces. So let's do from end here, and try 10. That's solid enough, but maybe we'll try with 5. I think 5 will work for us. Let's stop, go back. Now I will deselect the tracer so you can see that in full glory, and How about that? I think this is really, really cool. Don't forget you can render the tracer with hair material and maybe convert the tracer into a mouse spline and gain additional flexibility and much more. We can even expand on this because that was really requested by one of the testers for the videos. So this is a second version expanded, and for this second version the problem that my tester had is to add a trail to that fireworks. So basically once you fire the fireworks you have the rocket that goes upwards and leaves a trail, and then the explosion happens. So that was a bit problematic for him, so I decided to put this into this newly recorded lesson. So let's build that rocket trail, and often you will have to build things separately and then find a way to combine them. Now I will press play and I will hide all these guys just to have this particle emitter visible, and I will change some settings. First thing, I will orient it properly, so 90 degrees like this, so it's pointing down. Maybe I will scale it to, let's say, 50% because I think that would be appropriate. And here under the settings I will increase this to maybe 500. So I want to have a lot of these guys, and maybe even 1,000. And we'll decide, let me just stop this, it's really distracting me while I'm recording. And I will have to decide on this emission time. So let's say 20 frames. I'm really experienced and can guess with really good precision. And this lifetime should be the same. And you will see why. And the speed, well, this speed should be considerably higher. So let's go with 500. Let me see how that works. Maybe even more. Let's try 1,000 and see how that works. That would be much better. Let me stop this, go back, and I will enter 100% variation for all of these guys just to have a really random appearance. I think this is really good. Let's go back, and just for the sake of a tutorial I will change the color to something, maybe this yellow will work. Let's try. Yes, that would be really cool. Now it does look fine, but maybe we will add just a little bit of turbulence, and you can find the particle modifiers here. So turbulence, and let's load it in the include, change to include, and under turbulence let's play with this guy, maybe 50, maybe even more. Let's go with 100 so you can see the difference, and you see how those guys are spread out a little bit more. So that was the effect I was aiming for, so that's really nice. Let's go back, and that's it for the rocket or exhaust part, or whatever you want to call it. And now the obvious question, how do we connect these two guys to work together? Because if I enable the cloner and tracer, watch what happens. I press play, I really don't have a realistic appearance. This explosion should happen after this guy extinguished, so that's kind of a problem, but we will solve that with a tiny bit of espresso. So let's stop this, and to be able to move this complete setup you will simply put it under a null, so you have the ability to move that around as you want. Now I really hope that you did not skip the lesson about time offset in the effector, so it's really crucial not to skip lessons, because some things will be really frustrating. So if I want to offset something I can do so because I have a cloner. So if I load maybe let's say a plane effector and turn off all the values, I'll now have the ability to offset the keyframed animation anywhere under a cloner, and this explosion FX has the animated value. So let's give it a try. Let's maybe offset it by, let's say, 20 frames and see what happens. And you can see it really works. You can try maybe 60 frames and it will really do so. The animation will be shifted to 60 frames. I hope that makes sense. Let's leave it at 20 because this emitter has the stop emission at 20. So at 20, this rocket will stop emitting those little guys and the explosion will happen. So how do we connect these two guys so they work seamlessly? Well, the answer is with a tiny bit of espresso. Now let's fire up that espresso, and this null would be a really good placeholder for it. So let's select espresso here and just reposition this a little bit because we are low on real estate. And basically what I'm trying to achieve here is follow this emitter right on the top, because I really want to be able to see the values I'm extracting. And unfortunately I will have to pull this pretty much all the way like this, and I want to access this stop emission, which is exactly the same as this guy, and I want to load the plane effector parameter other time offset. So now once you saw what parameters I was loading, we can scale this down and pull these guys down like this. And here under view, you can go center nodes and they will be positioned really in the visible area of espresso. So let me just scale this guy a little bit. Let me show you the general idea. If I connect these two guys, which are both time values, so you can see right here, or if you hover long enough, it will tell you what kind of the port is it. So we can connect them without a problem, and one will control the other, and that means whatever we set here will be also set here as a time offset for our plane effector. Effectively, that means that we are simply controlling the duration of exhaust and explosion combined. So let's first try with the default value, but maybe now with 50. So like this. But there is also one problem with this. And the problem is I want to have a certain delay. So the rocket will emit particles, and between the stopping of the emission of those particles and explosion, I want to have a certain delay. So I can do that with a slight addition to this espresso. So let me add a node for that. So I will go to calculate, and the screen is cut off, but I'm selecting a math node. In this case, I will change the data type to time because I'm working with time. Hope that makes sense. And I'll connect this stop emission as input 1, and we'll simply add some frame value to the output. That means it will shift the behavior by this amount of frames. So if I enter maybe 20 here, press play, the particles will go, and then the delay will happen of 20 frames. So let's try maybe 40. It will accentuate the effect. You see nothing happens unless 40 frames pass. And this is a little bit limiting also, because you have to decide on the value manually, and I really want to avoid it. We should rather establish a certain multiplication. So let's go to real type of data and set this to multiply, and we'll multiply that by 2. So we have really a solid result. I think this is really good. Let's try maybe with 3 and see what happens. This is even better. So how about this? So regardless of which value is set here, let's maybe try 30, it will still work as expected, and there is no explosion because we ran out of time. So if we set this to maybe, let's say 300, and this value also, and do a right click, expand to full time, hit play, you will see that delay is really long, but it happens. So we have a bulletproof setup. Of course, you can clone this, move around, add effectors and stuff like that. So this is really, really great. I hope you enjoyed this one, and let's go to our next project.